Advanced Financial Modeling, Topic 6, Forwards and Futures. References for this topic include Simon Beninga, 4th edition or later, Chapter 25, Introduction to Monte Carlo Methods. And since that textbook does not cover forwards and futures contract, here are some links to learn about forwards and futures. Learning objective number 1, understand forward contracts terms and use. So what is a forward contract? A forward contract is a contract to buy or sell an asset in the future in which the asset price, the quantity of the asset, and delivery location are specified in the contract. The contract has two counterparties, the asset buyer and the asset seller. There are generally no upfront payments. In other words, you enter into a contract to agree to buy or sell the asset at a future date. And at maturity, at that future date in the contract, the seller in the contract is contractually obligated to deliver the asset to the buyer in the contract and is paid the contract forward price, which is usually denoted by a lowercase f or an uppercase f. Forward contract terms are negotiated between counterparties in what is called the over-the-counter market or the OTC market, which is a network of institutions. Futures contracts are forward contracts that trade on exchanges such as the Chicago Mercantile Exchange or the New York Mercantile Exchange, also called the NYMEX. In those cases, you cannot negotiate the terms of the contract. You simply buy or sell the contracts. So let's talk about what assets are covered into forward contracts. So if you think of a simple spot transaction today, if you go and buy some coffee today at Starbucks, we call that a spot transaction. You know the price, you know the quantity, and the delivery is immediate. A futures contract or a forward contract are just simple purchases or sale of assets in the future where everything is determined, like the price and the quantity and the delivery location, except delivery is delayed. So these contracts are available on many kinds of assets. They're available on stocks, on individual stocks, and you can buy a contract to buy or sell, say, the S&P 500 index portfolio in the future. They're available on bonds, primarily treasury bonds. They're available on all types of currencies. And they're also available on commodities. You could have forward contracts to buy or sell gold, silver, palladium, copper, etc. You could have contracts to buy or sell cows or pigs or chickens. You can have contracts on other agricultural products like corn or wheat or coffee or cocoa. And also you can have forward contracts or futures contracts on fuels like oil and gas. So these are useful contracts to buy or sell assets in the future. So what are their uses? Well, I can think of three possible ways to think about the use of a forward contract. One is you want to lock into a future purchase. So you're Starbucks, you're worried about the price of coffee going up, and so you enter into a forward contract or a futures contract to buy coffee beans in the future. You work at Hershey Foods and you're worried about the cost of chocolate or cocoa going up in the future because you've locked in your prices for the next year. So you enter in contracts to buy chocolate or cocoa beans in the future. Southwest Airlines may enter into forward contracts to buy jet fuel in future dates. And also an investor could lock into a futures contract to buy, say, the S&P 500 because they know they're going to be having some excess cash in the next 6 months and they want to lock into the price of the contract. So these are cases in which you're looking to lock into a future purchase or the price of a future purchase. So you're kind of locking in your costs. But there's also a use of the contract where you're trying to lock into your revenues or prices. Say you're a farmer that produces grain or cows or pigs, you're going to enter into a forward contract or a futures contract to sell them at a fixed price at a future date. You could be an energy company that locks into a future price to sell oil or gasoline or even electricity. You could be an investor that knows that, say, 6 months from now, I need to sell the S&P 500 or another stock portfolio or individual stock so I can enter into a contract to lock in the price today. And the last one is just speculation. These are not farmers and users of the product like Starbucks. These are people just speculating on the price. So you might simply enter into a forward contract to speculate the price of the underlying asset is going to be higher or lower in the future. If you think the price of some asset is going to be higher in the future, you enter into a contract as the buyer at a fixed price. And then when the price does go up, you get to buy it at that cheap price. Or if you think the price is going to fall, you would enter into a forward contract to sell the asset. At maturity of the contract, you would buy the asset at that supposedly the cheap price in the spot market and sell the contract or sell the asset using the forward price. So that example is right here. If you can enter into a forward contract to buy an asset at a price, we'll call it F, and you profit if the spot price at maturity, we'll call it S, is greater than F. So it's just a way to speculate. Now, the nice thing about speculation in the market is if the more speculators there are, it creates liquidity for people like farmers and Starbucks and Hershey Foods to enter into these contracts at reasonable prices. So that is the basic idea of what a forward and a futures contract are. Again, forward contracts are just contracts to buy or sell an asset where all the terms are settled and the only thing that's delayed is the future delivery and exchange of cash. A futures contract is just a forward contract that trades on an exchange.